Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the Driver's Debrief. I'm your host, Nicholas Patty, and we are jumping straight into an action-packed episode full of motorsports news on the eve of Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. I'm going to be working that one from the time that this airs today to Tuesday, and then I have some vacation that I'm going to be taking. So this might be the last episode for this upcoming week, and then it will be a week from Monday that we'll be back recording in full swing. If you have not already, make sure to follow us right here on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the video so that your friends, your family, your friend's family, your family's friends, exes, boyfriends, parents could see it. Whoever. Make sure to share the video. So we got a lot of motorsport news to talk about, and I promise I actually did this more organized than episode 1. We're learning. So let's start with sports car racing because we got a lot. Today was the first day. I'm recording this on a Friday. Today was the first day of the Roar before the 24 practice. So Daytona week has officially started ahead of the race next weekend. Obviously, the Roar is this weekend. The full race is next weekend. So TF Sport unveiled their liveries and driver rosters for the 2024 World Endurance Championship campaign. They're running the Z06 GT3Rs, and they're very reminiscent with these liveries of the C6 CompuWare liveries. So in the number 81 car, they have Andrade, Eastwood, and Van Rompuy. And in the 82 car, they have Boud, Juncadella, and Koizumi. Wayne Taylor Racing unveiled the number 40 Dex Imaging Accurate GTP livery. It's red and black. And that is, remember, the second car that is going to be fielded in addition to their blue and black Konica Minolta car. Forte Racing revealed their Lamborghini Huracan livery for IMSA in 2024. Interesting for rally and sports cars fans, but two-time WRC champion Kalle Rovanperä will be racing in the Rookie Racing, that's the name of the team, Rookie Racing GR86 in the Super Type U Fuji 24-hour. So obviously we will be reporting on that race when it's done because we commented on Rovanperä competing in it. Hertz Team Jota had completed a 2-day test in Bahrain with their Porsche 963 with Jensen Button, Phil Hansen, and Oliver Rasmussen present. United Autosports announces that Paul Di Resta will replace Felipe Albuquerque in their European Le Mans Series LMP2 program. IMSA's Michelin Endurance Cup has been moved from being a 4-race championship to a 5-race championship with the addition of the 6-hour tire rack battle on the bricks at Indianapolis. If you're unfamiliar, the Michelin Endurance Cup is a sub-championship within the IMSA WeatherTech Championship season that is only endurance races. So it is the Rolex 24, the 12 hours of Sebring, the Salem 6 hours of the Glen, the battle on the bricks, and then Petit Le Mans. Century Motorsport has added Darren Lung and Sean Galale to its driver roster for the 24 Hours of Dubai, which, remember, from episode 1 was surrounding some controversy because it had a delayed start date, and so a lot of people were actually pulling out because of weekend conflicts. Earl Bamber Motorsports announces their Dubai driver roster as well. In their number 10 Mercedes AMG GT3. They're having Stephen Grove and Brenton Grove, and they're both being joined by Jordan Love for the 6-hour event. And then Matthew Payne and Phil Keen will be joining those 3 for the 24-hour. Longtime Toyota technical director Pascal Vasselon has stepped down, and he's been replaced by, Davide Fleury. I don't know. Listen, I don't make the rules, right? Team TGM are going to be running 2 Aston Martin GT4 cars in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, which, for those that are new to motorsports or IMSA in particular, Michelin Pilot Challenge is different from the Michelin Endurance Cup. 2 different things. One's a series, one's a championship. Whelen becomes the official title sponsor of the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series. I also forgot to mention that the number 64 TGM Aston Martin will be driven by Hugh Plum and Ted Giovannis, and the number 46 Aston Martin will be driven by Matt Plum and Owen Trinkler. Moving on to stock car racing. Ryan Pemberton has passed away at 54 years old. He most recently was the competition director at JR Motorsports. He's been a long-time crew chief in the NASCAR paddock. So if you're on social media at all, you would have seen a lot of outpouring of grievances and condolences to his family. Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, and Donnie Allison, as of today, actually, or last night, have been inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Jimmy Johnson has announced with Legacy Motor Club that he's going to be doing 3 additional races as in addition to what was already announced. In 2024, he's going to be running the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, and the season finale in Phoenix, actually, here. Daniel Suarez has announced that he's going to compete in the NASCAR Mexico Clash at the Coliseum race, bringing probably some much-needed attention to NASCAR Mexico. AJ Foyt, otherwise known as Super Tex, celebrated his 89th birthday this week. He's a 4-time Indy 500 winner, 67 IndyCar victories, 7 IndyCar championships, 67 Le Mans 24-hour winner with Ford, 1972 Daytona 500 winner. He is almost, without a doubt, the greatest American driver in the history of ever. The only ones that I think would hold a candle were Mark Donohue and Dan Gurney. Mario Andretti obviously reached kind of more fame, but in terms of the driving, I feel like you got to give the edge to Dan Gurney or Mark Donohue. But either way, Jeffrey Earnhardt has announced that he's continuing with Forever Lawn as one of their primary sponsors at select events for Sam Hunt Racing in 2024. Moving on to NHRA. Robert Height is going to be sitting out at the beginning of the 2024 season, and Austin Prock is going to be taking his place. To my knowledge, Robert hasn't said why he's unable to begin the season, and he may have, and I just didn't see it. But that is the situation for NHRA. Moving on to IndyCar. IndyCar has made clear that they're actually wanting to do a permanent race in Argentina. So, Andre, one of my coworkers, if you're watching this, you could always go visit your family and then also go see an IndyCar race, which I think an IndyCar race with the backdrop of majestic mountains in South America would be so, so cool. And if you look at South America as a whole, it is a vastly untapped motorsports market because the closest you get to worldwide motorsports there is Formula One in the Mexican GP. Outside of that, there's not much in terms of catering to the motorsport fans down in South America. Coors Light has extended its partnership as the official drink of IndyCar. So for all you Coors drinkers out there, unfortunately, I don't have a Coors with me, but it'll do. IndyCar is still partnered with Coors Light. Moving on to Formula. This category is Formula. It's going to be Formula 1, Formula E, Formula 2, and random other Formula stuff that is really newsworthy. McLaren has just out of the blue done a surprise 2024 livery reveal for their Formula 1 Challenger. And it's very reminiscent of the Marlboro McLaren liveries, but rather than white, it is black or exposed carbon. And then rather than the kind of reddish orange, it's papaya orange. So cool there. The Alpine livery seemingly got leaked because there was like a really blurry photo of someone that kind of probably took the photo like this, walking around the headquarters. And it's a very blurry livery, but from what we can see, it looks like Castrol has probably stepped up their sponsorship entitlements because they're a much more prominent sponsor on that car. Usain Bolt apparently tested a Formula E car. He said it was the only thing faster than him. The Formula E co-founder is publicly inviting Sergio Perez to join Formula E. And in his invitation, he made it seem like Formula E had a lot to offer Sergio Perez. I hate to break it to you, it doesn't. This is the last bit of Formula E, I promise. The first round of the Formula E Championship was held, again, I'm recording this on a Friday, the 19th. This was last weekend. It was the Mexico City E-Prix, and Pascal Wehrlein with Porsche has grabbed the pole, and then he went on to win the race, having a clean sweep that weekend. There was a little bit of post-race inspection drama. A lot of people were nervous, anxious I mean, it was one of those kind of post-race inspections, making sure that the car was within the technical parameters, and there was some questioning as to whether or not it was. But by the end of it all, he was in within the parameters set by the FIA for Formula E. Mercedes AMG F1 announces that Toto Wolff has extended his contract by 3 years with the team. He is the second longest serving team principal in Formula One, bested only by Christian Horner. So really no surprise there that he is continuing on with Mercedes. Not to mention the fact I believe he has a majority stake in the team. So he can really do what, I mean, he's negotiating with himself, essentially. And I don't think the other shareholders are going to complain too much about his record with Mercedes. Mercedes AMG has also announced that Valentine's Day is going to be the day for their car launch. The next 2 points for Formula are actually some of the biggest points that I think we're going to have this episode. And they're twofold. So the first one is Dorian Pin joins Mercedes AMG F1 as the Academy driver for Formula. Is it the Formula Academy? That's just the name of the series, I think. But she's racing with Prema. Dorian Pin, for those of you that don't know who she is, that means you don't watch the pinnacle of motorsport, which is sports cars. She is been on a tear through World Endurance, IMSA, and basically any other sports car competition with Iron Dames in the Porsche GTE, right, before the GT3 spec, RSR, in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 spec car. So she's been racing with Michelle Gadding, Sarah Bovey, and Rahel Frey. And then she's done some LMP2 stuff with Prema. She's just been taking names and kicking ass. And she actually, of all the young female drivers that are getting an opportunity, is probably the one that's proven herself the most. She's younger than I am. I'm 24. So she has a very bright future ahead of her. But where I think this is interesting is I saw someone, post on X. You can follow me there at NicholasPatty21. It's in the description. But someone posted there that they think it's going to hurt her career more than it's going to help. And that's because they think that with how kind of oversaturated the open wheel formula world is, you have more of a chance to prove yourself based off merit in sports cars, and there's more availability for top class rides than there is in formula. The other aspect to that argument is you could always get in with a team that runs a formula program, whether it's Formula One, Formula E, etc., that has a hypercar program, i.e. Alpine. Obviously, it's rumored Porsche is going to be taking Audi's spot, Cadillac with Andretti potentially. So you could get in with one of those teams, or even an IndyCar, right? I mean, you look at the kind of cross-pollination between IndyCar and the top class of IMSA competition, or even World Endurance, between Marcus Ericsson or Felipe Nasr or Colton Herta. There's plenty of others. I know there's a bunch of guys from Irish Shank, and their names are eluding me. Oliver Jarvis. So there's not Oliver Jarvis. Anyway, one of them. There's plenty of drivers who Felix Rosenquist is another one, who go between IndyCar, who go between top class of hypercar, because they have those team connections, and then because IndyCar is in a direct competitor with sports cars, the same way that IndyCar and Formula One would be. And so if you're McLaren in IndyCar, you're not running a team in hypercar. So you're okay with one of your drivers, whether it's Alexander Rossi, who raced with Wayne Taylor at one point, going over and racing in IMSA because it's kind of a non-compete, as opposed to Formula One. So anyway, that is all to say, I think there's more. I think that random poster was right in the sense that Dorian Pin has been progressing rapidly through the sports car world. And right when she's kind of not crescendoing, she hasn't peaked, but she's really getting to the top levels of professional motorsport in sports cars, she decides to take what is, and I say this respectfully, but a downgrade, because she's not even running in Formula 3 or Formula 2 equipment. She's running an LMP2 in sports cars, which, again, in the sports car world is the equivalent of like F2. And it's not that she's getting an F3 ride. It's not that she's even getting an F4 SCCA ride. It's Formula Academy. Now, granted, she signed with Mercedes. So she has that growth channel. But Mercedes has got Lewis and George, and they've got a plethora of other professional drivers that have just been in the Formula Open World FIA world more than she has. And it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman or someone's a man. She's made herself in sports cars, and she's proven that she's worth the hype, as opposed to doing the entire formula path from being a young Carter to then going into F4 or whatever, F 2000 in STCA. So I don't, let me know in the comments if you're familiar with Dorian Pin. Do you think signing with Mercedes but for a Formula Academy ride and then by proxy racing for Prema, is that a step up from being in a position to sign contracts with hypercar teams? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Another one that I'm going to want to hear your thoughts on. This one, let me have a sip. This one's just going to make me mad because it has to do with one of the greatest circuits in the history of the Formula One calendar. So it's being rumored that the Japanese Grand Prix is going to be taken from Suzuka. No, it's not going to Fuji. No, it's not going to another cool track. It would be going to Osaka as a street race. What F1 does not need is more street races. Limited viewership on site, right? The cost of that viewership goes up through the roof. And here's the other thing. The people that are going to pay money to have a 7 or 10 grand all access paddock pass at a street race are not the people that are watching an entire season of Formula One. And on top of that, they're not the people that come to Formula One because they're race fans. They come to Formula One because they're business people. They're celebrities. They're athletes. They're social media stars, whatever you want to call it. They're doing it because it's the place to be. But when F1 is no longer the place to be, the same way that it is now with Drive to Survive and the hype that's around it. I mean, you can go look at the articles, whether it's Forbes or Autosport or whoever, that are questioning whether or not Formula One has reached its peak with the U.S. market. And if it has, if professionals are even questioning whether or not it has, that's probably a good indicator that it's close to, if it hasn't already reached its peak, which means it's downhill from here. And so what Formula One and Liberty should place an emphasis on is going after the casual fans like myself, like my brother-in-law, like most of my friends that love the sport. Watch every race, follow the drivers, follow the teams, have a freaking podcast to a couple viewers because they love the sport so much they want to talk about it and share their thoughts and get other people's opinions and thoughts. If they don't have a solid base of those people like you and me, then when F1 is no longer the place to be, they will have pushed out and pissed off the I don't even want to say casual fan because we're diehards, but the fans that couldn't afford a 10 grand paddock pass. And they'll have also lost all the people that could afford it because it's no longer the hot place to be. So I think within the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to run into a period of reckoning for Formula One where it's not that they're going to go out of business. Of course not. It's not that their viewership is going to get cut in half. Of course not. But they're going to feel it to a point where they have to change business strategy and business decisions when it is not as popular as it's always been. Where your casual fan that just watches because everybody on TikTok is into it, when they stop watching because they're like, well, Max always wins all the time or Lewis wins all the time, right? I mean, you have the diehard fans that through Lewis's dominance watched it because they love the sport. They love the battling in the midfield. There's storylines that aren't just who's winning. But for a lot of the people that aren't like you and I, when they watch Formula One, it's all about who's winning. And that's the only reason they're watching F1 in the first place, is because it's what everybody's talking about. It's what everybody's doing. So who are they going to cheer for? Whoever's winning, obviously. Whoever's popular. Whoever's the most successful because they're only in here in the first place to look cool. They don't want to cheer for some loser. Anyway, getting back to Japan, Suzuka has been one of the most legendary circuits in the sports history. I know they started running in Suzuka, I believe in the early to mid 80s, because obviously Fuji was the track in the 70s, and the famous Niki Lauda opting to not finish that race, costing himself a world championship for his safety, is one of the things that has helped cement Fuji's legacy in the motorsport world, and World Endurance still runs out there. But Suzuka, I mean, how many times have you seen clips of Senna and Prost going into that final chicane? How many times have you seen videos of Fernando going around the outside of Schumacher in a 130R? I mean, or Max in a Toro Rosso passing Fernando in a McLaren Honda down the front straight, Fernando yelling about a GP2 engine. Fernando and Vettel drag race to the line. I mean, some of the most iconic moments in the sport happened at Suzuka. And because F1 is so concerned about street races, they're going to potentially sacrifice one of the cornerstones of the sport. You look at, granted, I think Vegas was a fantastic race, but you look at the blowback from the people who do the racing themselves after Vegas. How many more times can you add a street circuit before something really terrible happens, or something that pushes the teams away? You know, I mean, no team is just going to decide, hey, you know what, because you added another street race, we're done. But when teams look at close to 10, just over 10, 15 street races on a calendar that is getting inflated year by year from 18 to 19 to 20 to 21 to 22 to 23. I mean, I'm only 24 years old, but I remember Formula One seasons where there were 16 races and then 18 races. And now we've increased that by like 30%. It's just getting to a point where I think, like NASCAR did in the late 2000s, when the popularity was at its highest, riding off the high of the 90s, NASCAR thought to themselves, we can do no wrong. We can do whatever we want. And our fans love us. They'll never stop watching NASCAR. It's NASCAR. Who doesn't love it? And what they do, they've introduced a lot of things, including car homologations, including formatting rules, caution rules, playoff structures, and NASCAR is in a place that is less popular than it's been since what, probably, and y'all feel free to comment, late 2007, 8, 9, 10, like right going into Car Tomorrow phase era. So let me know in the comments what you think about NASCAR, but also about the Japanese Grand Prix potentially being moved to another street circuit. Although I will say, of all the cities in the world to do a street race at, I think a city in Japan would be really badass. So I'll yield that. We have some off-road news, and it's a little bit sad, but it also kind of finishes on a high. And the off-road category is going to be kind of Dakar, World Rally, Rallycross, stuff like that. So tragically, Carlos Falcon from Twin Trail Racing, a Spanish rider, has passed away at Dakar as a result of injuries sustained during an accident on January 7th. So obviously, thoughts and prayers with his family and his fans. Travis Pastrana is going to be absent from Nitrocross in Calgary, Canada, as he undergoes knee replacement surgery. So good luck, obviously, to Travis. And Sarah Price becomes the first woman to win a stage of the Dakar. We also have Carlos Sainz Sr. at 61 years old becomes the oldest winner of the Dakar Rally. Kudos to him. It also becomes Audi's first win in the Dakar. Listen, Audi's one of the most legendary rallying brands in the history of rally. They finally have a Dakar win overall. And then on top of that, the fact that, and I'm losing my train of thought. I don't remember. It was going to be something about Carlos Sainz, but here we are. Moving on to motorcycles. This category is going to be AMA, Superbike, MotoGP. Pecco Bagnaia celebrated his birthday, the reigning world champion. Following up on episode 1 when we talked about some motorcycle racing. Valentino Rossi and Luca Marini have won the 100 kilometers dei Campioni off-road motorcycle race that Valentino Rossi hosts on his ranch. And then Honda has unlimited test days after their 2023 season campaign. And they've confirmed that they're planning on doing 22 preseason tests, which, let me just say, it would be sweet justice. I would cry tears of joy if Honda has Marquez leave, he goes to Ducati, and then Honda actually ends up doing better than Gresini Ducati. That would be hilarious. But, who's to say the wiser? So that wraps up all of our notes that we had taken down. But a lot's happened today, at the day of this recording, that I need to talk about. So this is going to kind of be out of order. It's not going to fit into categories, but we're just going to do the negligent news, the last little bit of news that I was negligent in collecting. So an hour ago, Sports Car 365 posted that Pippo Durrani has the fastest time in the opening day of testing in the 31 Action Express Racing Cadillac. So obviously for the reigning IMSA champions, that's a great start for them. Jerry Bruckheimer, the legendary film and television producer, is serving as the Grand Marshal for the Rolex 24 Hours. Let's see. What else do we have? Cristina Gutierrez becomes the first female Dakar winner since 2001. So that's overall. But she was competing in the Challenger class. Jensen Button celebrated his birthday today, actually. Let me go through a weird accident at the Hard Rock, or near the Hard Rock Stadium, where a man was killed in a car accident, but his car ended up on the Formula One circuit. It's weird. It's very weird. Another note about Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, it was his fourth Dakar win, but it was Audi's first. And this is what I remember now that I was going to say earlier. Audi has won all but one FIA championship, and it's Formula One. And they're going to be there in 2026. Moving on. Yeah, okay, so they've won, here's the list. They've won World Rally, World Endurance, GT1, World Rallycross, Formula E, World Rally Raid. That's 6 different FIA World Championships. Janet Guthrie in NASCAR news is going to be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through kind of the last things that I had saved on X. Marco Andretti is going to run a mix of ARCA Menard Series and Craftsman Truck Series races this season with Cook Racing Technologies. Sports Car 365 reporting that Porsche is kind of regarded in the paddock as having the most potential moving into the 2024 IMSA season. James Allison has extended his contract with Mercedes-AMG F1 as the technical director, so he will continue on in that role. IMSA livery reveal with another United Autosports car, the number 2 Orica 07. We'll have Ben Keating, Patricio Award, Ben Hanley jumping in with Nico Pino in the Wins USA Orca LMP2 car. The Ford Supervan is coming to Mount Panorama, and it's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be at the mountain for the Bathurst 12 Hours. Just a little bit lastly, Kelly Moss is fielding a 718 Cayman GT4 RS for Michael McCarthy and Riley Dickinson in Michelin Pilot Challenge for IMSA competition. And then Pennsboro Speedway is bringing back their original half-mile track. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. was pretty psyched about that because that's a track he is fond of. Michelin is named the official tire supplier and presenting sponsor for the Whelen Mazda MX-5 Cup. And last but not least, Carbon with Paragon Racing has announced its return to IMSA Racing with Jeff Westphal and Sean McAllister in their BMW GT4 car. Actually, I thought that was the last. I forgot. We got Proton Racing announcing with their new Mustang. They unveiled liveries for their new Mustang GTD car. In the number 77 Mustang, they're having Ryan Hardwick, Zachary Robichon, and Ben Barker. In their number 88, they're having Giorgio Roda, Mikael Pedersen, and Dennis Olsen. One of their Mustangs matches their 963 livery, the black and gold, and the other one is in the first form blue that we're very used to seeing with Ryan Hardwick. Dynamic GT has unveiled their 2024 livery with Ford Performance as well. We also have American news in the sense that Haas has announced that, hold on, my apologies, this is so awkward. Chloe Chambers is representing Haas F1 in 2024 for the F1 Academy Series. She's racing with Campos Racing. BMW has announced their hypercar squad with Raffaele Marciello, Dries Vanthoor, and Marco Wittmann in the number 15 car. And then in the number 20, they have Robin Freins, Rene Rast, and Sheldon van der Linde. And finishing on another really, really shitty, sad note, Anthony Gobert, a motorcycle racer, has passed away. Just a lot of really unfortunate passings with a lot of people that had a lot of potential ahead of them, unfortunately. And motorcycle racing has always been something that's really dangerous, but it just seems to be equally so, even as time progresses. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, episode 3 has come to an end. It's actually a little bit shorter than I was anticipating. I thought this was going to be a pretty long one, but I hope you all enjoy kind of the brief rundown of the news. And then at times, some of the discussion on some of the bigger topic issues and what some of these decisions and bits of news mean for the sport that we all love so much. So feel free to let me know in the comments the answers to the questions I dropped a little bit earlier. But additionally, if you like this format, or if you like a little bit more conversation on each of these little bits of news. Looking forward, we have the Daytona 500. I have a little watch party planned for that. It's going to be pretty cool. We got the Rolex 24, and we got more coming down the pipe. I do have an exciting announcement in that next week we are interviewing someone that I spent my 4 or 5 years of go-karting in the hill country in Texas as my most fierce rival. If I didn't win, he was winning. And if he didn't win, I was winning. Him and I were always battling on track. But off track, we've been friends since. And he has now gone on to do incredible things with Formula Mazda and electrification and other stuff. So we're going to have a really, really cool interview with him this coming week. And that'll probably air while I'm on vacation. And then we have another really cool interview with a gentleman who was the editor-in-chief at Road and Track. He was in charge of partnerships for all of Microsoft and Forza Motorsport. He has raced at the Rolex 24. His dad's best man was Steve McQueen. A lot of extraordinary stories coming from him. And then to recap the Rolex 24, we're going to be talking with a Radford Racing School instructor who has raced at the Rolex 24 over 5 times, both in Daytona prototypes and GT. So you're not going to want to miss that. We're bringing on the interview series, folks. It's coming. Be prepared for it. And so that you don't miss it, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and turn on those notifications. Feel free to follow me on X at Nicholas Patty, P-A-T-T-I 21. I tweet when the episodes go live, and a lot of this news I like and retweet as it happens, so you won't miss a beat. Thank you so much for coming by episode 3 of the Driver's Debrief. We'll see you next time.